I am Sam Eckmann, and I am very pleased to be joined here with Jason Cohen, executive producer, director of the new Disney Plus series Encores, where we bring back high school classes. After they've already graduated, they're going to come back and perform their high school musical for one last encore. Jason, this is such a uplifting show. It's such a great idea, and you're also the creator of this. And I want to know what sort of brought on the idea for bringing back a high school cast to perform one more time. What started that?
Yeah, the show itself, I'm a fan of musical theater, so that was certainly part of the motivation. But it was also this idea of being able to look at people and letting them have a chance to look at who they were then, who they are now, this idea of transformation, and that we all grow and throughout our lives and maybe become not exactly what we expected to be. But we all have these memories of high school. We all had different experiences in high school. And I really wanted to be able to dive into that and investigate that and look at how it's different for different people. But then using this idea of putting on the show again as sort of the vehicle to bring these people back together, and also knowing that community is a very tight-knit community, the drama community and that high school musical community is a very, it sort of lives by itself often within that world of high schools. And so to bring those people back, even though we knew there was such a diversity in the people that participate in these, and when you get into the sort of stereotypes of high school and whether it was the jocks or the nerds or, the theater kids. The theater tended to be a place where all those people would often come together because you had everyone participating in something like this. So I think just that social experiment of bringing them all back together, letting them sort of look at what happened in these interim years and also be able to talk honestly about who they were then and who they are now.
Yeah, it's a fantastic premise for a show. And speaking of the interim years, I'm a theater nerd, so I know I was paying very close attention in 2017 when you did the first special for the Into the Woods cast back in 2017. And now, several years later, we get this Disney Plus series. And I'm curious, were you holding out for a streaming service? What was happening in the interim years there?
We did the special for ABC, which we all loved and enjoyed. We had done a production of Into the Woods, and it was really well received, and it aired on ABC. It didn't end up turning into anything else besides a one-off special, but we had always had that idea that we would love to do this as a series where each week we can go to a different school in a different part of the country in a different show, and tell these stories, as a whole. And so we sort of stuck with it. We knew, we felt like there was still a concept there, an idea there. And then Disney Plus, sort of popped up, and they were sort of looking for programming for the launch of the channel. And we had been with ABC, and obviously ABC and Disney are in the same family. So we ended up talking to them, and they felt like it was a perfect fit for the launch of the channel. And they gave us the go-ahead to do 12 episodes, which we were, just really thrilled about because, again, it sort of gave us that opportunity to fulfill the original concept of the show, which was let's go to the middle of the country one week and see a small town and from, a graduation year of 15 years ago, and then the next week let's go to an inner city and see a graduation year from 30 years ago, and let's see Annie one week, and let's see Grease one week, and let's see Anything Goes one week. And so we were just excited to be able to really bring that to fruition, that original idea and concept of giving this show the diversity that we knew was out there.
Yeah, there's certainly enough there for multiple musicals and plenty of episodes. And the show really asks, you talked about how important drama is as a high schooler, and it really asks everyone participating to dive back into what their experiences were as a teenager and dive back into how they were as a high school student and what their dreams were like. So I'm curious to ask you, what were your high school dreams? Did you imagine a life similar to what you're leading now, or does it look very different?
I don't think any of us can really imagine what our lives are going to be. I think we all, at some point in our lives probably have different hopes and dreams of what it might be. I was always interested in journalism, and I ended up following that thread, and I've done documentary films for a long time, and now documentary series like this one. So in a sense, I guess I'm doing a little bit, but it's certainly a little further off from what I had originally anticipated. But again, that's sort of the beauty of the show. We have people on this show who who frankly said they didn't achieve what they had hoped to, or achieve that goal that they have. And we have others who certainly did. And we have people who were very comfortable in their skin in high school and still so today. And we had others who maybe weren't as comfortable in their skin in high school, maybe didn't know what they wanted. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm certainly of the camp where I don't think you should have your life planned out, go to college if that's the route you're going, and know exactly what your major and what you're going to do. I mean, life is about experience and what you pull from that, and how that informs what you end up doing. So I guess the long but short answer is I don't think I'm exactly where I thought I'd be, but I'm on a journey, and wherever it takes me, that's where I am, and that's where I end up at this stage. Encore was part of my journey.
Yeah, and that journey has resulted in a lot of you're steeped in documentary filmmaking. You were nominated for an Oscar for your documentary short, Facing Fear. And what first, probably back when you were young, what first grabbed you about that documentary style filmmaking and grabbing real people's stories? Yeah,
I went to school for journalism. As a kid, I was a writer, wrote for the newspaper. I actually did a lot of sports journalism, went to college and was still doing that. And while in college, I started taking some film classes, and I realized long-form storytelling was a lot more exciting to me, and being able to really, go deeper and tell a much more complete story of whatever subject I was working on, and doing it visually. So that was sort of how I really got into documentary. It was sort of the merging of my film classes and my journalism classes, and sort of ran with it from there. And then I've never wanted to sort of pigeonhole myself into one type of filmmaking or one type of genre. So I really tried to do a breadth of work, and I do certainly some darker subject matter and some heavier subject matter, and I've done some stuff that could be interpreted as being a little lighter. I think this show sort of sometimes it falls kind of in between, because we do get into some darker moments in people's lives, but certainly part of this show was also having fun. There's comedy here. When you put a 45-year-old person back on stage who hasn't sung and danced in almost 30 years, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be some humor there, and we're not mean-spirited about it. We like to have fun with these people, and mostly they're laughing at themselves when that happens. But certainly that was something we knew we always had with this show, that you're going to get that. And part of that is, we have a lot of parents on this show who this is their kids' first time seeing them on stage, and seeing those kids in the audience, seeing their parents on stage for the first time, and either the embarrassment or getting a chuckle when they see their father or mother trying to pull off a choreography. We love that, and we love seeing that.
Is that a problem you run into? Because, you have people who haven't sung and danced in years or acted in years, and are people scared to show themselves in a imperfect light? Are they saying, please don't use that take where I messed up? No.
Yeah, listen, everyone has some insecurities, but to be honest, I think by the end of it, everyone just understood that this is what they're doing. And most of them just understood that, they're out there having fun. We had some casts that certainly took it, I think, a little bit more seriously than others. And I think some people that were a little harder on themselves if they forgot a line or flubbed a choreography or hit a high note when they weren't supposed to. But I think there were others who really understood that this show is not about, becoming a superstar. It's about having fun with this and having that opportunity to come back together for a night and put the show on it and have some fun. And we had a couple casts. We had one cast in particular where they were class of 1975. They were all in their 60s, 60 to 62 years old. And listen, they had trouble remembering their lines. And so we, in the end, they flubbed a lot of lines, but they had fun with it. They were sort of improvising on stage a bit, and the audience loved it, and the audience had fun with it. And it got such a great reaction. And we loved seeing that. Again, our show this is not a competition show about becoming a superstar. This is a show about having fun and reliving these amazing moments, and particularly for people that were involved in theater to really embrace that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the show can kind of straddle the light and dark there, and I really appreciate that it shows the whole spectrum of emotions. Like in the Annie episode you directed, there's a man who is dealing with the memories of his cancer battle from when he was a kid. As a director, what do you do? What's your approach when something like that comes up in terms of how you're going to thread that into a series that might otherwise be considered quite light?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we in the end are still doing a documentary. And so we are trying to tell these people's stories as honestly as we can. So we are not going to shy away from something like that. And yes, in that episode of Annie, Jeremy, who was a cancer survivor and talks about sort of coming to terms with having to shave his head to be Daddy Warbucks and having someone being uncomfortable with that because he was a cancer survivor. And that became a storyline. I mean, it was something that became a thread throughout because he was coming back to play Daddy Warbucks as somebody who had gone through that and lost his hair. And so it's not something we're ever going to shy away from. And we had other episodes where, people going through, other, not necessarily life struggles like that, but other things that they had dealt with and people that dealt with things in high school and this is the first time they were talking about them, and letting them be in this safe space where they can talk with these people and really open up about what affected them then and how it affected them through their whole lives up to this point. So, it's just, for me, that is storytelling, and without that, you don't have a story. So it just was not something in any of the episodes that we did that we were going to shy away from. If somebody wanted to open up about some things in their life that they had gone through, that they were able to now share with these people.
It's certainly, the whole process seems to bring up a really, really wide range of emotions. I'm wondering, what was sort of the thing that most surprised you about the effect the show had on these people?
Well, I mean, I don't think we were expecting the amount of emotion. And this goes beyond some of these storylines of people that had been through struggles. I think it's just the emotion that we saw on that stage of these people, and particularly when they went out to take those bows. I mean, all of us in the control room, we had a box of tissues back there. There was a lot of emotion in seeing what these people had gone through. And yes, some of them had overcome some amazing struggle in their life, and this was their chance to shine again. And some people who don't get to do this and then sort of are grinding it out, and this was a chance for them to really shine on stage. But I wasn't prepared, and I think a lot of us on the crew, we were not prepared for that emotion of seeing them on that stage in the finale, and then seeing them with their families after, and the reactions they got from those people that were there supporting them through all of this. Yeah.
One of the kind of unique, timely things that it matched up with was that 2019, when it came out, was the 25th anniversary of Disney on Broadway, and you got to actually get Susan Egan in for the Beauty and the Beast episode, which was pretty fun. What was it like watching the real professionals working with it? Did you see a change in them in terms of how they tackled working with these otherwise amateur performers?
Yeah, we're working with amateurs, and we were never trying to put on, a Broadway show, and we understand that. That being said, we tried to give the support we could, and our sets and our costumes were all just really top notch, and tried to make them feel like they were putting on as close to something like that they might imagine. But when we brought in some of these professionals, it was really amazing. And in particular, I mean, you mentioned Susan Egan, and when we brought her in for the Beauty and the Beast episode, and you have the original Belle there working with Belle, that some of those moments were just, they left such an impression on everyone. And we've seen that in the reaction we've gotten from people, and to see her really workshop with her. And it was tough. I mean, she didn't go easy on her. And that's what we wanted. We want these people to be put through we don't want to overexhaust them, but we wanted it to be somewhat rigorous, and it is rigorous. They're having to put these shows on in a week, and we don't want to put anyone in a dangerous situation. But to see something like that, where Susan came in and did this one-on-one, it was pretty magical, honestly, to see what she was able to draw out of them in this very short window of time, in this short session that she did with them. And we had that throughout. We obviously brought in these professionals, musical directors, Broadway directors, to really work with these people and let them understand what it's like to, work 24/7 on a show, as opposed to high school, where you do a few hours after school here and there to put the show on.
Yeah, and you can really see the improvement, especially in that scene. It's a really intense moment where you see growth in a short period of time. The Annie episode, the premiere, actually won you the Directors Guild Award for directing reality series, so congratulations. And I think that's one of the first big wins for Disney Plus, for any Disney Plus show. So what was that night like for you, and what did it mean to get that award for you?
We were obviously completely honored. And it was, I guess, Disney Plus's first win, I think, mostly because it was the first award show that came up that they were eligible for. But yeah, no, we were all ecstatic, and then I guess, to be honest, we were all a little bit surprised. We know the show. A lot of people have seen the show, but we were still a new show, so we were surprised. But for me as a director, I was mostly just so grateful, because that represents the work of this huge team that is involved with this show. The show is not easy to pull off. We are shooting a documentary for 7 days with multiple cameras following these people. At the same time, we are putting on a production of a show with full sets, costumes, hair, makeup, lighting, and putting that on in a week within the structure of doing the show. And it's, as I have said before, we are basically, we are a traveling circus, and to keep all these things working, and to keep a show on course to be put on, and to keep our cameras going and everything we need to do behind the scenes, and interview these people to understand what's going on as we're going through, and produce the theatrical production in addition to producing the TV show. It's a feat. And I was just so proud of our team, because this is a team effort. I was a director, and we have other directors who directed other episodes who are also part of this, because we all contributed to the vision of how are we going to pull this show off. But we did it, and 12 different cities in 12 different weeks, and traveling around and doing that was not an easy feat. And I was just so proud of everyone who was part of that effort.
Well, it's a fantastic accomplishment, and I hope to see more of it as it goes on. So I'll cross my fingers for potential season 2. But thank you, Jason, so much for sitting down with me. Everyone who's watching at home, Gold Derby, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can keep up to date with us with all of our TV updates. And Jason, best of luck with everything during the season.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.